team, and I cover the Midlands. So in other words, I look after 5 centres within Dogs Trust, just covering the training and behaviour. My other interests are working trials and general training, but I do take on dogs within the centres, take them home and work with the dogs in the centre itself. So the training I do is, my whole bias is towards positive reinforcement. Games, play, using reinforcers, and it doesn't need to be food, it could be tactile, it could be play, there could be a wealth of different reinforcers, but what that does is massively strengthen the human bond with the dog. It creates that trustful relationship where you can support the dog, and the dog has got to have, there's got to be something in it for the dog as well. So we are there to support, to work with the dog and build that bond and that whole strong relationship. It's not about me asking the dog and saying you must do this, you must do this, you must do that. I want the dog to be able to enjoy the whole process. So at the moment you can see he's kind of desperate to play and he wants to play, but he doesn't realise that we're doing anything else. He's just enjoying the format. So we've got that communication coming back and forward, where the dog is looking to do something, and I think that's an important part of the relationship, that the dog has got enough confidence to be able to ask and be able to communicate with me in a way that he's not worried that something is going to happen to him. So I predominantly stay away from anything that is aversive or punishing, and I want to stick to the reinforcers and the rewards in the dog's world. Dogs are not there to take over the world. Dogs do what works. So we've got to be able to communicate with them effectively and use appropriate reinforcement to teach the right things. If we use strategies that are about suppression of behaviour and not allowing behaviour to develop, then the dog starts to become quite anxious. And I think it's really important that we let the dog's communication ability to come forth through that relationship. So pack theory, anything like that, is very much about suppressing the behaviour, about stopping the behaviour happening. As soon as we take into our mind what we have to do to stop a behaviour, we have to use something that's aversive, and that's what we want to stay away from. I want to say to myself, not how do I stop a behaviour, but what else do I want? So if I don't want my dog on the couch, where else do I want him? I would like him to be in the bed, I would like him to be on a mat, I would like him to be at my feet. So I've got to make sure that I reinforce the dog for being in that position. I shouldn't ignore him, I should pay him massively for being in that position. So it's really important that what we don't want is the dog to be worried about showing behaviours, as in those concepts, the theory of pack theory and dominance theory. I want to stay away from them and teach the dog what is appropriate, but I need to use payment of some sort. I think sadly our expectations are too high. We maybe choose the wrong breed to not fit in with our lifestyle. I think that a lot of dogs maybe come into us, to the Dogs Trust or any welfare centre, is because the expectations have been too high. And I think we expect training just to fall into place without actually putting it into practice. One of my quotes is, you get what you pay for. In other words, you get what you reinforce, or you get what you reward. And I think we have to reward. Even behaviour of lying, doing nothing should be paid for, because if the dog doesn't, then he's going to go off. So we have to look at all these strategies and reinforce. So yeah, it's really, really important that any dog is paid for being calm, is interacted with for being calm, is interacted and played with, is interacted and given something to do that behaviour, because a lot of people want that. They don't want the dog to be pulling, they don't want the dog to be, they just want the dog to be calm. So I think it's really important that we focus on the behaviours we want and we pay for those behaviours as much as we possibly can. I think professional bodies such as the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors, the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, people that have been through the relevant academic framework, plus having good practical knowledge and having a wide extensive practical knowledge can help considerably. So the more that people can look into that, there is lots of information on the web for the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors and all these other sites as well, but it is a bit of a minefield. So I do suggest they speak to their vet first, who will then be able to put in touch with the relevant associations to help with any behaviour or training problems. So a dog that I'm going to bring home from any welfare centre, I would look at building the bond straight away, but my first assessment goes on the dog's preferences and and dislikes. So in other words, I need to know what the dog is worried about, is concerned about, and will avoid. But I also need to know what the dog likes, enjoys, and wants to partake in. So what food does he like? What touch does he like? If I tickle him under the chest, is that a nice place for him to be? Is a nice place when he leans into me at the side? I want to find out everything about that dog as much as possible, and what is he going to seek to get from me or from the world itself. So I need to know that first of all. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to not predominantly feed from a food bowl. I am going to maybe have 30% of the dog's feeding quota for that day out of a food bowl, but the other 70% I am going to use throughout the day to just feed the dog. If the dog looks at me, I'm going to feed him. If he walks past me, I'm going to feed him. If we go out for a walk and he sees something, I'm going to feed him. I want the dog to learn that I am the food bowl. I am the provider of everything that's nice. So I want to build up that relationship as strong as possible where the dog looks to me in expectation. I want to see myself as a two-legged fruit machine. That I am going to deliver things at a random basis and the dog doesn't know what to expect. So I can create the dog that's always trying to look at information or trying to interact with me. Now he's looking at me, he's not jumping up, he's just waiting to see what's going to happen. So we need calmness with it. But we've also got a dog that's always waiting to see what's going to happen next. And that even silent form of communication we want and we enjoy. And I think that's what we're striving for from bringing a dog home. But we should not expect a dog from welfare is going to have much training. Because remember, taking the dog out of one environment and putting it in another environment, the dog's going to have to relearn many things. So we start at the beginning, look at all the likes and the dislikes, teach a communication system, and then work on us being that huge big fruit machine of providing for that dog.